I'm doing this today, a few days after 9/11, 2018, and I thought to myself, what lessons have I personally learned? Where were you at the time that 9/11 took place? Well, it was a Tuesday. I happened to be off that day, and I was laying on the sofa in the living room with the TV on, and I had NBC on. And all of a sudden, the first report came off that said a small plane has hit the World Trade Center. Didn't think much about it. I don't think many people felt much about it. Then all of a sudden, the news started coming in, one after another, after another. It wasn't a small plane, it was a large plane. They immediately go to television and have cameras there, and I realized that a second plane has hit. I watch people run just as though that they had no idea where to go. They were just simply running in any direction, hoping to escape what was going on. And then we saw on television the fall of the first tower and then the second tower, and then we started hearing that there was something that, in fact, what was going on. I happened to be in the basement of my house where I'm a ham radio operator, and I happened to be talking to somebody in Pennsylvania. And the person in Pennsylvania said to me, I've got to get off, something's happened. I hear a noise. It wouldn't be much later that I would find out that what he heard was a terrible plane crash that took place in Pennsylvania. I think for several days, I think the whole nation was numb. I remember going out and in the community where I was, and there were prayer services. The churches were having people asking for special prayer, and all of a sudden we realized the magnitude of what had happened. More people had died on 9/11 than had died at Pearl Harbor. Suddenly we found ourselves with the mayor of New York and with the president of the United States, and almost a feeling of impending terror. What's going to happen next? I remember, of course, we somewhat got over that. Time always has a way of deafening the sound of the tragedy that's around us. And one day I was doing chaplaincy work in one of the hospitals here in the Charleston area. And I happened to be in the chaplain's office, and someone knocks on the door. I opened the door, and the gentleman standing in front of me looked very frail. He looked like he had lost a lot of weight. And he said, "Chaplain, can I talk to you?" I said, "Certainly, come on in." So he came in, I closed the door. And when I closed the door, he sat down there in front of me at the desk in the chaplain's office. And he began to tell me his story. He happened to be one of the first responders that went into the World Trade Center. He happened to be one who had escaped. But even though the mayor had told them, and I'm an old firefighter, I've been in volunteer fire departments for years, and the mayor said, "Don't go there, it's not safe. You don't know what kind of hazard materials could be there." He goes out. He tries to do what he can. Finally, he is out of the place, and all of the terror is taking place all the way around him, and he finds himself not right in harm's way at that moment. But it wouldn't be but a few months that he would learn that, yes, he went into that area, yes, there were hazardous materials, and now he's suffering because of cancer brought about by that. I sat there quietly and listened to him in the chaplain's office as he began to tell the gory details of what he had seen. He needed to do what's called a debriefing, and so I did that with him. And then he told me, he said, "I'm on my way from New York City. I'm going to Iowa He said, I want to go there and die at home where my family is. And I'm sure he has been gone for quite a while. And I had prayer with him. I didn't know what else to say. I embraced him. I hugged him. I had prayer with him. And he went to get up. And as he went to the door and he started to open the door, he looked back at me and he said, you know what, Chaplain? I said, what? He said, if I had it to do over again, I would do it all over again. Then I'm reminded there is no greater love that a person can have than to be willing to give his or her life for someone else. You know, God calls us to have that love that's willing to go not halfway or 3/4 of the way, but at times we're called upon to give everything that we had. No greater tragedy in the world than what Jesus went through. And yet, if he had it to do again, he would do it again. May I suggest something to you? If you have a church home, and I know 9/11 has come and gone, we're now several days away from 9/11, would you just simply make a commitment that no matter what it takes, you're willing to do it for our Lord Jesus Christ? Until we meet again, may God's richest blessings be upon you and upon your entire family.